All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
We were going to have some celebrity guests this afternoon. I had Oprah on line 1 and Paula Dean on line 3, and Shane somehow conferenced them in together, and now I have neither of them available for the show. So, anyhow, one want to tell a story about a purse or something. I don't know how it all went down exactly.
I'm sure they would have gotten along just fine.
Yeah, it's just changed some recipes. All right. So anyhow, about this.
He's also ready to give away a new car, by the way.
Right. Everybody in the audience was going to get a new car, but Shane crossed the line. Sorry, guys. The NSA, back to a very serious topic. So the president says in his speech, there has never been any intentional misuse of the databases or the power of the NSA. And the general who runs it, who just likes to lie to Congress as often as he can, best I can tell, and lie about everything and anything. Guy probably doesn't even tell his wife his real name. Comes out and says, wow, there's never been any intentional misuses. Well, now they're like, oh, well, we've identified a dozen times where even guys who are analysts or employees, were checking out romantic love interests or maybe just a little overzealous trying to get somebody and did intentionally misuse it. So now there's a dozen intentional misuses we've learned about this week. Now, I think what they're going to try to do is say, oh, we're cracking down on the intentional misuses, so go back to your homes, go back to your cars, get your episode of I Love Lucy keyed up, or go watch some zombies on the Walking Dead. But please stop worrying about what your government is up to. That's where they're headed with this. So they're not going to say, we've identified intentional misabuse. Yes, we've discovered it happened. We're going to route it out. Don't worry about the few thousand times a year, once every 7 minutes that we inadvertently violate the Constitution. Forget the fact that the supervising court says that they have been misled by us 3 times in 3 years. The supervising court can't supervise if it's actively misled again and again and again. So again, this is just a pack of lies coming out of the spy network that's listening to you. And we learned this past week, by the way, that 75% of all domestic internet traffic is being scooped up by the NSA. They're claiming we only look at 0.004% of web traffic. What they're basically saying is we scoop up all your web traffic, and then if we decide it wasn't worth looking at, we don't keep it after a certain period of time. But that means that 75% of everything you're doing on the internet, everything I'm doing right now on the internet, is being scooped up by your government. And I know a bunch of you guys out there, I'm not doing anything wrong, so I don't care. Well, just wait until you don't like the government that's in power and you've let it become this police state. This is the stuff of nightmares, trust me. All right. Shane, who's on line 2? I don't have a name. Steve, you want to talk about a car accident?
Yeah, I have a big rig, and I was making a turn into an establishment. The guy was pulling off of a side street and clipped the front end of my truck. And he tried to tell me it was my fault. And I said, no. I said, I'm in the throughway traffic. I said, you have a stop sign. He said, you should have waited until I turned in. So I ended up having to call the police to come in because I had to fill out a police report on it. And he caused about $2,500 worth of damage to my truck. In turn, the officer found out that the guy has no driver's license. And he hands him a copy of a insurance card all ripped up. Now, the officer did not do any further investigation, but what I found out through my insurance company was the guy had no insurance either. And to make matters worse, the guy passed me coming down Cameron Street last week in the same car that he hit me with. So this guy's still out even driving. PennDOT refuses to do anything about it. The Harrisburg City Police seem to be incompetent about it because they should have investigated further and went back to his house and pulled his tag off his car and impounded his car because he has no insurance on it and he's still driving it.
Okay.
So at this point, my insurance company is telling me that they have sent him letters and he's refused to answer the letters. So legally, what can I do to go after him?
Well,
I kind of think that he should have further charges filed against him, and I don't think the Harrisburg Police is doing that.
Well, further charges, I mean, you just got to let the police file what they want to file. That's their business.
Yeah.
You can complain to the chief. Is there a new chief yet? I think there is. And you could complain to the district attorney's office, but the government will do what the government will do, okay?
But the thing, this guy's still out driving around, and the next thing, what's going to happen if you read in the paper this guy ends up hitting somebody in a crosswalk or something, killing somebody?
Right. Well, it would be your fault for not doing enough, obviously.
Because the Harrisburg police should have at least the officer that investigated the accident should have at least checked to see if he had insurance and ran it and try to do that. And he didn't even bother even doing that. All he said to the kid was, he says, I'll help you out when you go into court. Well, what kind of crap is that? They ought to put, what I think they ought to do? I think they ought to put up a sign where you should come into Harrisburg, enter at your own risk.
All right, well, and all seriousness, though, trust me, that's their problem, and I understand why you're concerned. But in terms of recourse, if he doesn't have insurance, he probably doesn't have any assets you can get that are meaningful either, and that's, of course, why you have insurance, right?
Right.
So, right. But you're stuck with the deductible.
Right, I'm stuck with the deductible. Meanwhile, this guy's out driving around, and like nothing's ever happened.
Right.
Shame because this state, I know a lot of people that this state has gone after who didn't have car insurance, and they really racked them good. But for some reason, they just seem like they don't worry about the people in Harrisburg and just let them do what they want.
Right. I know, and it's. But I can't, I can't tell you what to do except complain to the authorities and hope that they get better at their job. But the reality is, I think over there they're running half staff. They're probably not super interested in making big cases out of things because they probably then have to go to court and spend time there.
Right, and they probably have so many people in jail now for worse stuff than that they don't have the room for them.
It's probably quite possible.
The way Harrisburg is.
Well, just keep in mind that you're still safer today than you ever were in human history. We don't have open bands of pirates on the highways and the waterways and highwaymen robbing people left and right, and the homicide rate's the lowest it's ever been in human history, generally speaking. So.
Oh, another thing is too. I kind of thought about maybe if I go up by his house where he parks his car at midnight, maybe take my big rig up there and flatten his car for him. Maybe he get the message.
Yeah, well, that's against my better judgment.
Yeah,
but you can have live it out, close your eyes, and have a fantasy, and live it out that way, and it'll be safe. Okay.
Okay.
All right, my friend. Oh, Mac, you want to talk about the incinerator?
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
All right, I see where the state attorney general says she's going to investigate for criminal wrongdoing.
Right.
If they've already paid that debt off, and they find criminal activity, aren't you in fact rewarding the person for that? The people involved for their wrongdoing? That'd be like me robbing a bank. At the end of the day, they said, "Well, by the way, that $1 trillion you stole, you can keep that."
Right. Well, the answer is potentially, yeah. There may be statute of limitations problems. There may be other issues. But the very fact that it was paid off doesn't mean they can't go back after people, okay?
Oh, really? All right.
That won't clear anybody of wrongdoing.
It just seemed to me like the investigation should have been complete first before you start paying people off, because once you pay people off, it's hard to get that money back. Right,
yeah, and they probably won't get that money back because you won't even get the money back from the people who ran off with it, because most of the people who probably took the money criminally are unlikely to be able to pay back, large portions of it. It's only going to be if you can implicate one of these large financial concerns. Mm-hmm. But they're getting a lot of protection. If you've noticed, Harrisburg can't just declare bankruptcy, and the legislature and the governor have worked hard to protect all the big money people involved. So, good luck, Attorney General Kane.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Bye. 540-0580. Who's on line 3, Shane? That one didn't come through either. Lewis.
Oh, thank you, Carl. Hi.
I want to do my Bob Durgan, the phones aren't working right rant, but I won't. But go ahead. Tell me what's going on.
Why do courts advise people not to represent themselves?
Because I'll explain it this way. If you wanted to go to the moon, okay, it took like 100,000 engineers and, 1 million workers and da-da-da-da-da, and even then we still don't always get there, okay?
All right.
Because it's very complicated. Now, the law might not be rocket science, but let me ask you a question. How do you plan to authenticate that sales receipt that you want to enter into evidence?
Well, it's either I don't know.
See what I mean? How do you plan to authenticate? Well, you're like, I don't even know what he means exactly by that. Well, we're in the 600 rules. You got to authenticate the evidence. And so if I'm the lawyer on the other side and you try to put some bill in there to prove something, okay, I'm going to say objection lacks authentication. Then you get somebody on the stand and you have them authenticated, okay? And I say, objection, hearsay. Now how are you going to get it in? You got past the first objection. How are you going to get past the hearsay objection?
You won't.
You will, if you knew that there was a business record exception you could cite. And that's my point. That's why the judge says, go get a lawyer. Because I know the rules of evidence. I know the substantive law. I have experience in the courtroom. I know how to sort the law and the facts out. And, you know, if you're in there representing yourself, the odds of you getting a fair shake are very low.
Okay.
Got it?
Thanks.
540-0580, back after the break. All right, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Hey, Mom, have I got you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Gotcha. I dialed my mom up during the break. She kept calling me. My voicemail's full, and I'm ignoring her. So what's going on? What's new and exciting?
Well, let's see. The day is a wonderful day in Western New York. It's bright and sunny, and it's just gorgeous. It's a perfect day for doing anything. My garden wizard lady came and did the rest of my side garden, so it looks beautiful.
Good.
And it's mulched and the whole thing. I just love it. And that's about it. My granddaughter is 15 today.
Well, that's got to be my niece.
Yes, that's your niece.
I'll have to call her.
Don't forget to make a call. Yeah.
I will. I'll have to call her. That's cool. And, of course, the nephew just started at UB as well. So
That's right. He was launched the day the president went to the college or the university.
Very interesting. Oh, that's good. They can cross paths together.
Yeah.
So I asked Shane, they made up an ad about me. I want you to listen to it. I want your reaction.
Okay.
Cue it up, baby.
The most interesting attorney in the world. He speaks Latin in 7 other languages.
That's a lie.
His suits are made of 200% cotton, and his ties are of the finest silks. He will often take a jury trial because he enjoys conversing with others. The bar exam? It was written about his life. He is the most interesting attorney in the world.
I don't always discuss law, but when I do, it's at 1 p.m. on WHP 580. Stay classy, my friend. So, what do you think of their ad?
Well, that's the ad. That's kind of like the guy who, drinks beer once in a while.
Yes, exactly. The Dos Equis guy. And I love Dos Equis.
Yeah.
I thought Shane did a good job with that.
Yes, she did. Yep.
That's good. And
Good
obviously, Dos Equis has good market penetration, if even you know who that was.
Well, yeah, I guess, because I see it. You kind of wonder what's going to come next with the ad. So I guess that's it.
That's what I told Shane. Now he's committed to making multiple versions of it. The most interesting attorney in the world on employment.
Did they like my recipes?
Yes. In fact, your meatloaf is being probably baked somewhere in America right now. Which reminds me, we were actually trying to get Paula Dean and Oprah on today. And
were you really?
Yeah, and Shane accidentally conferenced them in together, and now neither one of them wanted to stay. I don't understand why.
I can't either.
And the whole audience was going to get a free car. So now if anybody who needed a new car doesn't have one, they're going to blame Shane.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well,
there you go.
Anyhow,
I'm going to...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, pass my love on to the family. And I guess you're going shopping? What are you doing?
Well, I'm going shopping. Yeah, I am.
All right. Well, buy something for me.
I will, and call your mother once in a while.
What? I do. I call you all the time.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Love you, Mom.
Love you. Bye.
I think she wants to talk to me off the air is what she's trying to hint at. She doesn't want to talk in front of you people. Peggy, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on? Hey, Peggy.
Oh, hi. It started about almost a year ago. I took a car into a shop, and he said it needed a new water pump, so had him put a water pump in. Still had the problem. He said then now it was the head gaskets, and he said it's cheaper to put in another motor than it is to replace the head gasket. So I had him get another motor. I used one, at the junkyard, no big, because it's an old car.
Right.
Okay, well, It took him 2 months to do that. I got it beginning of December. By beginning of January, it was back to, well, even sooner than that. It was still, having smoking out the back and stuff. Anyway, so I took it back January 9th. Left the keys and a note because I couldn't get a hold of him by phone. Called him for 2 weeks solid trying to get a hold of him. Finally got a hold of him. He was on vacation. Didn't even know the car was there. However, if he opened the door, he would have got the keys and the note. You know what I mean? Anyway, so then he said, okay, he had to order a new motor. Well, 6 months later in June, he's been through supposedly 4 different motors. Anyway, so I took a guy with me in June. And he said, well, the best he can do is give me my money back from my motor. And so I discussed it with the guy, and he said, yeah, do that. And then so the car went to the junkyard. I never got money from my motor. I wrote him a note around 2 weeks ago, saying that if I didn't hear from, and I've been trying to call him all this time, I get his answering machine and his voicemail's full. So, so I finally, when I talked to him in person with my friend, he said, that he'd been on vacation again. That's
right.
What his excuse.
Well, it sounds like you're getting the flim-flam-lam.
Yeah. So anyway, I wrote him a note about 2 weeks ago and said, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to pursue further action against you. I did talk to him, and he's, I guess this was a month ago now, and because 2 weeks ago, I did talk to him, and he said, give me a little time because wherever he got the motor from, he wanted to try and get the money back from them. Okay, so I still haven't heard from him. I'm still trying to call him and still don't get through to him. And I want to know if there's something I can do to get that money back for just the motor. My friend said I wouldn't get the money back for the labor, because that's hard to prove that, he didn't put the 4 motors in. But
right.
It's $500, well, plus $30 for tax.
I think you probably need to go to the district judge and sue there.
District judge?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and just file there and
start, and hopefully get the money out of them.
Yeah. Do you think I can? I mean, do I have a case?
You have a case. Question whether you can collect the judgment or not. That's always the tough question.
Yeah. Okay.
All
right.
We're not a terrible state to collect judgments in, but we're not a great one.
It's in Lebanon.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying we're a state in Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania,
But I was just reading something on a Texas website because I was doing a little research because I have a judgment I want to get against somebody who might be in Texas, okay? And I would have to take the judgment from Pennsylvania to Texas, but I was just studying a little bit of what's going on down there in Texas, and I ran across a Texas court website. And this is the court, mind you. The court says, before you file a lawsuit, what you need to know, and it says, money judgments are almost impossible to collect in the state of Texas. And I was kind of joked. I was like, there's the court's advice, right? Right out front. Like, don't even bother suing because you probably can't collect it. Now, it's not that bad here, but it's always an issue. And that's why I recommend people go to district judge, because a small judgment you have a chance on, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good luck.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. 540-0580. James, you're on the air. Hey, James.
Oh, hi. Earlier, somebody was talking to you about a police officer, and you kind of intonated that an officer can lie, but we can get in trouble if we lie to them.
Correct. That's during an interrogation.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. If an officer lies and takes it into the courtroom and then lies, can he be held accountable?
Repeat this again. Who lies?
If an officer takes the lie and gives you a ticket based on a lie.
Takes a lie? What do you mean by takes a lie?
Well, he tells you a lie.
The officer tells you a lie?
He says he lies about you.
Okay.
And what happened?
Oh, no, that's different. If he
citation on it.
If he makes up a false citation, he still has to prove it in court, okay?
Okay, but if you go into court and you prove that he blatantly lied, what happens then?
Well, how do you prove that he blatantly lied? That's always an interesting question. If you can actually prove that he blatantly lied, like there's actually like a video showing, that everything he's saying is false, okay? Then you may be able to sue him for violating your civil rights, okay?
Okay.
And if he sticks with that lie under oath, then he might be guilty of perjury, right?
Right.
But realistically, most of the time, if he isn't believed, that doesn't mean he lied. So most of the time when people, quote, lie in court, or it's determined that, listen, if you go to a court hearing and two people testify, quite often the jury gets to determine who's telling the truth, right? Mm-hmm. So shouldn't there be a perjury prosecution for every trial in human history? Because at the end of the day, somebody must have been misrepresenting the truth.
Okay.
But that's not how we look at it. We look at a little bit more refinement. We just assume that people are trying to tell the truth. And then even if they're not believed, it doesn't mean they were willfully lying, okay? Mm-hmm. So what's the recourse? I mean, how are you proving that this officer made everything up? Because you say it ain't true and he says it's true, right?
Well, let's put it this way. Let's say it's blatantly incorrect based on what happened when they came in, the amount of time.
Right.
And it actually only took a minute for them to do what they did.
Hey, we caught a couple of police officers lying in the middle of the Sandusky trial. What do you think happened to them since then?
I didn't follow it. What happened?
What happened to them? What do you think? Nothing. Come on.
Really?
Wake up to how the government works, man.
Okay. Will attorneys and judges help you go against something like that, or do they kind of shy away from it?
When's the last time the district attorney prosecuted a police officer for lying in court? Never.
I don't know.
Never.
Okay.
I mean, never. I mean, really, it just doesn't happen. Why? Why is that? Because they can't. Listen, dude, they're going to hurt their own game. If jurors started to figure out that people sometimes lie in court, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're law enforcement officers. Well, then how could any jury in good faith trust a police officer, right? So we can't let jurors know that sometimes they lie or have been caught lying, because if we educate the public on that, it'll make it harder to prosecute crime in the future.
Interesting. I know. I've observed some very intense things, once here in Pennsylvania and several times in Florida, and it shocked me.
Yeah, I tell you, you just can't depend on your government to do the right thing, because they're not always thinking about what's the right thing. I mean, look at this whole NSA scandal.
Yeah.
All right, boss, I got to go to break.
Thank you.
540-0580. Welcome back. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580. Scott, statute of limitations question? Hey, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, my dad died back March 11th of 2006.
Okay.
And prior to that, he was going through a lot of therapy with the hospital and stuff, and taking all kind of different medicines. Find out that he was diagnosed with mesothelioma. And after a year after his death, I had called to make a claim, and they told me that the statute of limitations had run out. And it's like, okay, and I forgot about it. Is this a true assumption of the law, or am I still able to make a claim? My dad died a horrible death. He was outside of a laundromat, and well, he pretty much exploded. He died right on the spot, and there was blood everywhere. They had to bring the fire company down there to water down the sidewalk, and it was just a horrible thing. And I'm just at a loss. Is there a statute of limitations on that?
There is. I mean, it's going to be your general tort. Let me see here. See if I can find the Pennsylvania treats mesothelioma, okay, as 2 years from death or 2 years from diagnosis. So you have 2 years from when it causes your death, or you have 2 years from when you're diagnosed if you're still alive.
I see.
Okay?
Yes, sir, I appreciate it. it just sucks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got to watch the statute of limitations. We were talking about that earlier. Joan, you want to ask a DUI question? Hi, Joan.
Hi. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. My question is for you, Carl. How does one get the driver's license privilege restored after their second DUI?
Well, after a second DUI, you're either going to have a 12 or an 18-month loss of license, okay?
Right.
And after that's over, then you have an additional period where you have to have the interlock device in your car, which prevents you from driving while there's alcohol on your breath.
There's no way of getting around that device.
I do not believe so. It has to be in any registered vehicle that you own in order to get your license back. I think you can suffer an additional hard license loss for the same time period and may get credit for it.
Okay, this has been since January of 2010 that the DUI. So now it's 2013. It's 3 years.
Well, what does PennDOT say first? If you go to PennDOT, they'll tell you what you need to do to get your license restored.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And they'll tell you when. They'll give you your restoration requirements and your deadlines and your dates and the whole 9 yards. All right?
But he would still have to get the device on his car?
If he's in the interlock period, he won't be able to drive. He'll have to get an interlock license, yes. Otherwise, the suspension goes on, and if he doesn't get the interlock, I think he just serves a hard suspension for that time period. But I would get down to PennDOT and find out what they're saying his restoration requirements are.
Okay.
All right?
I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Pass the buck. 540-0580. Dave, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, brother, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink it with Carl Rominger. Hey, dude. Question, if you get pulled over, all right?
Yeah.
And you have a friend filming it with a cell phone.
Okay.
And he threatens the friend. He says, you're not involved in this incident, but if you don't turn the camera off, you're going to be involved in it.
I don't think he can do that as long as the friend is not interfering with the investigation.
He's in the back seat of the car just filming it out the window, and the cop told, first he said, put the camera away. And I said, I don't think you have to put it away. I said, just keep it on. And the cop, that's when he made that comment. He said, you're not in trouble yet, but if you don't turn it off, you will be.
Yeah, I think he technically can't do that.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. But I just wanted to know in case somebody else ever ran into that situation. But I have to come down to your office. I have to talk to you about a certain thing we had talked about earlier. What is I always forget that dang number.
It's 241-6070.
All right, so if that ever happens again, as far as you know, unless even if they threaten to, arrest you, is it okay to film that then, you're saying, as far as you know?
Yeah, in fact, there's been cases won. Now the classic example is the police pull a car over, let's say in front of my office, and I walk out or,
yeah, right.
And film it.
You're interfering with the investigation, though, right? You're saying
you can't interfere, okay?
Yeah.
And we've won those, and I say we, meaning the lawyers, and actually it's been held that it's a violation of somebody's constitutional rights to arrest them for filming as long as they're not interfering. It's a little bit dicier when you have a passenger in a car that's been stopped because the police have some ability to regulate your conduct, okay?
Uh-huh.
So once they've got a car pulled over and you've got a passenger in the car, and he starts rummaging around or doing things, they can make an argument that they were afraid he might be pulling a gun or afraid he might, filming.
Yeah.
So that person, it's a little bit more complicated. But once it's clear that all they're doing is filming, I'm not certain that the police have the absolute right to stop it.
Well, it's like I'm at the point, I was going up through Hershey, Hummelstown area, and I got pulled over for a brake light.
Right.
And I drive a little race burner car, I admit it, but it's not because, I'm 16 anymore. It's just the car was just right, and you know what I mean? But it has one of those stupid 5-inch exhausts. But to make a long story short, he got pulled over, and, he was pretty cool about it. And then, of course, two other trooper cars pull up for a brake light. And, he told me to step out of the car. I stepped out of the car, and I was just leaning there, and they're going back and forth. And they walk back up, and the one guy says, were you drinking? It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, no, dude, I wasn't drinking. He says, well, we smell alcohol in your breath. I said, maybe last night when I was watching the game up at that place, there's a place over there in Hummelstown, the strip mall, last night during the football game.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, he said he definitely smelled alcohol. Would you be willing to take a test? And I figured I had nothing to lose, because I figured they were going to push that button. Well, it came out to be like a 0.1. And he says, when did you have your last drink, sir? And I said, last night, maybe 2:00. And he's like, is that right? How much could he have? He's talking to the other officer, figuring it out. I thought, my gosh. It's just like they were going through my car, not in it, but just looking all through it for another excuse. So you really have to watch, man. Right. Even if you think you're innocent, man, if they find something that's even questionable, that's all they need.
I know.
It's just word of advice, man. It's just like I think with these roving DUI things.
I know.
It's just to give them another reason to look for inspections or seatbelts or.
That's why I say. That's why I say it pays not to cooperate, right?
I couldn't believe that dude you were talking to with the game commission. How he kept saying, "Well, what if I thought."
I know he kept wanting to give me a scenario, and I should have just let him talk, right?
I know,
but
you're like, "Shut up, dude! Just don't talk."
There's nothing you're going to tell me. But the very fact that he wanted to tell me something that he thought would make my opinion change is the very same disease that's going to cause him to eventually call that game warden up.
Yeah, and then he's going to go home. Well, Mom, Carl said that I shouldn't talk to him. Well, you better call that officer back. I could hear it already. He's probably going down there right now. But anyway, love the show, Carl. And I miss Bob Durgan. I know as much as you do. We got nobody to pick on now.
I know.
So anyway, keep smoking your big stogies, and I'm sure I'll bump into you sooner or later when I stop up by your place.
All right, boss. Take care.
God bless. Bye.
540-0580. Sue, you're on the air. Hey, Sue.
Oh, hey, I'm really changing the subject here.
That's okay.
If you're named as a beneficiary in a will and you predecease that person, who does it go to at that point?
Okay. Repeat this. Somebody's named in a will.
Yes.
Okay, and then what happens?
That person predeceases the person that has the will.
Okay.
Who does his or her estate go to at that point?
Well, usually that share still goes to the estate of the deceased person.
Okay, so...
But there are ways, if the will were written, that wouldn't necessarily be true. So if I wrote the will that said, I leave my car to my grandson so-and-so, but should he predecease me to my other grandson, well, then the will already accounts for that, right?
Right. But if there's no other beneficiary listed in the will... And
are we talking about a specific bequest or a residual clause? Like just, I leave everything to my nephew.
Right, you're leaving everything to your nephew.
Well, then it goes to my nephew's estate, which means it goes to my heirs of my nephew. And if he died without a will, then we use the laws of intestate to determine who those are. If he had a will, we follow his will.
Okay, so if the nephew predeceases the person that has him in the will,
and the nephew has a will,
but the nephew has a will, then
we'll follow the will.
It follows the will.
But if not, then we'll use the laws of intestacy to decide where it goes.
Okay. Because that's not what another lawyer told me.
Now, the answer is the other lawyer saying what? It's just going to go to the nephew's relatives regardless of his will?
Well, he didn't say regardless. He just said it would go to the other relatives of the nephew.
And do we have a will for the nephew?
Yes, the nephew has a will.
Okay. I going to say I don't think that to be the case, but I can check that here during the break. In fact, I got to go to break. So you want to hold on a minute?
Sure.
All right, hold on. Got to go to break. Okay, you still there? Sue, you still there?
Yes.
Okay, so here's what my research shows. It's going to depend on what the will says, of the first relative.
Okay.
If it's a bequest to a, let's see here, let me give the right term. It's called anti-lapse provisions. Okay. Let's see. Applies to bequests to issue children and other descendants of all generations, brothers or sisters, or children of a brother or sister. So a nephew would be in the anti-lapse, okay? So even if they've predeceased, it could go to their heirs, okay?
Okay.
And it doesn't look like their will would control if you're just relying on the anti-lapse statute.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the rub.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's going to be the rub. In other words, the nephew's will is not going to control if he predeceases, and we're relying on the anti-lapse statute. If the will has other directions in it on how it's to be handled, then those would override the anti-lapse statute. So that's the right answer. You got it?
Let me get this straight. If the nephew has a will, everything's left to the nephew, and he predeceases.
Then we're not following his will. We're going to use the law of intestacy under the anti-lapse statute. Anti-lapse.
So then who would it go to?
Well, it would go to his children in equal shares.
The nephew's children.
To his children in equal shares.
Okay.
If he doesn't have any children, then it's going to flow back uphill to his parents and then sideways to the siblings.
Of the nephew.
Yep.
Okay, so if the nephew has children, it will go to the children?
Correct. Under the anti-lapse example that we're giving here.
It wouldn't go to the nephew's wife?
No.
No, okay. It would go to the biological heirs of the nephew.
It would go the intestate heirs of the nephew would be the best way to say that. Because he may have adopted somebody, and that would make them an intestate heir, even though they're not biological. So I wouldn't use the term biological.
Okay. You've been a big help, Carl.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
540-0580. So we can do some research on the fly here. Let's see. Michelle, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. A policeman stops you during a regular traffic violation, okay? And you're nervous. You throw a cigarette out the window. Can he tell you to go over and pick that cigarette up, or he's going to fine you?
You threw out the window of your car?
Yeah.
I mean, he can just fine you, so I guess he's giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But I didn't know if that was littering or not. I just thought.
Yeah, you can't throw cigarette butts out. Now, of course, I sometimes throw my cigar butt, in the ditch or.
Yeah, well, I got nervous, and I'm like, ooh, and I lit up cigarette, and then I got real nervous.
Cigarette butts, by the way, are spun out of, oil, and they last forever, right? My cigar butts, on the other hand, that's just leaves.
Okay, I'll start smoking cigars.
All right, you take care.
All right, babe, you too.
540-0580. David, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Recently, my parents have deceased. One parent went about a year and a half ago. The other parent went just this last spring.
Okay.
The will, this is a will question. The will states everything gets divided up evenly, which is understandable. The executor of the will was able to read the will after the one parent died and the other parent was still alive. So they were able to read the will, which the rest of us were not. And they knew how to divide up the estate. And after the second parent died, the estate totally got separated, and I said, can I see a copy of the will? And they said, it doesn't do you any good. It's already been dispersed. Come to find out, after the will was sent out, I had a car that was mine that had been previously sold to cover expenses. Is that legal?
Sold to cover expenses. Well, let me ask this question. Was the estate solvent or insolvent?
What's insolvent?
Meaning there wasn't enough cash around.
Oh, yeah, there is stocks and bonds of a decent amount of money, and there's also a savings account with a decent amount of money.
Well, then theoretically, no, they shouldn't have sold the car if that was a specific bequest to you.
But their attorney says in the state of Pennsylvania, I guess it was sold, and I don't get it.
Well, I don't understand how it was sold. In other words, why would you have to sell that? In other words, specific bequests go first. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So if I leave you a specific bequest, meaning I give you my car, okay? and then I leave $20,000, or I leave the remainder of my estate to whoever. You get the car first as long as there's enough money to cover the taxes and expenses of the estate, and then the remainder person gets the remainder, or the residual of the estate. And if that's $2, that's $2, or if that's $100,000, that's $100,000. But the car comes out first as long as there's sufficient assets to cover estate expenses.
That's what I figured, but it's apparently, according to the lawyer, because I've been talking to him, sort of.
But the opposing attorney,
pardon me,
the guy who stamped off on this move,
the estate attorney,
right?
Said it's gone and there's nothing I can do about it.
Well, wait a minute. He says it's gone and there's nothing he can do about it. Is different than him saying it was okay for the executor to do it.
They did it knowing. I think they did it knowing that I was going to get it, and they wanted to get rid of it so I wouldn't get it.
Well, did they sell it before the person died?
Number one person died, yes. Number two person died, was still alive.
Right. So you didn't inherit it yet.
Now both of them are gone, and it's gone also.
No. But I'm trying to explain is they got rid of the car before you actually were entitled to it, right?
Well, this gets tricky. The person that the car was titled to died 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was left to the other spouse.
Right, who then left it to you.
Yes.
But the car wasn't there when they died.
Correct.
Yeah, you got screwed, but that's not a legal recourse against the estate per se. You would have to argue that they intentionally sold this asset to try to divest you and maybe used a power of attorney to strengthen their own stake in the inheritance, but that gets to be messy and complicated. How much is the car worth?
$9,000.
Yeah, so, well, might be worth pursuing. I don't know. All right, I think I got your answer there. So you may have a lawsuit, but it's not going to be a very straight line one. Got to go. Sorry, Tom. Sorry, Angie. If you need to get hold of me, go to my office, 241-6070. Again, that's 717-241-6070. If you can hear this signal, we can help you with your legal problems throughout the mid-state. 717-241-6070. Personal injury, family law, criminal law, DUI. And if we don't do it, we'll find you somebody who does. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. God bless.